Welcome. My name is Dr. Doug Wingate, Integrative Neurorehabilitation Specialist, and I want to talk about chronic migraines. More specifically, I want to talk about a published evidence-based approach that's producing outcomes unlike anything conventional treatment has been able to offer most sufferers. It's not another medication, it's not traditional neurofeedback, and unlike anything most migraine patients have encountered, it requires nothing from them except to show up and rest. Migraine affects over 1.1 billion people globally. It's ranked as the second most disabling condition among all diseases around the world, and the leading cause of disability in people under the age of 50. In the United States alone, 39 million adults live with migraine, and biological women are 3 times more likely to be affected due to neurohormonal vulnerability. The economic impact is staggering. An estimated $36 billion annually in direct medical costs and indirect costs like lost productivity and disability. And about 4% of the population, the chronic migraine sufferers, those with 15 or more headache days per month, account for the majority of those costs and the vast majority of the human suffering that happens. If you're watching this as someone who suffers from migraine, there's a good chance you've spent years being told this is just how it is. You may have reorganized your work, your relationships, your sense of self around the migraine. This information is for you. Most who suffer from migraine that I see have not failed treatment because they didn't try hard enough. They failed treatment because the treatments themselves have significant limitations. Up to 40% of migraine patients discontinue preventative medications because they're not working or because of side effects. The medications that do work typically only get a 30 to 50% reduction in headache days, far from full relief. And for up to 1 in 3 chronic migraine sufferers, the very medications that they're taking to manage the condition have created medication overuse headaches. The drug becomes part of the problem. Traditional neurofeedback, while promising, typically requires 30 to 40 sessions before meaningful change is seen. Slow, cognitively demanding, and expensive. And for migraine sufferers specifically, the visual stimulation and the sustained attention that's required for traditional neurofeedback can be intolerable during flares. And the result? Millions of people trapped in a cycle of partial relief, side effects, and rebounding pain. Neurogen was built to break that cycle. Before we talk about what Neurogen does, it's important to establish what migraine actually is, because the field has fundamentally shifted its understanding in recent years. Migraine is not a vascular event. It's not just a bad headache. It's a whole brain disorder of dysregulated networks, cortical hyperexcitability, and autonomic imbalance. 4 core mechanisms drive it. First, cortical hyperexcitability. The visual, auditory, and somatosensory cortices fire at a lower threshold than normal, meaning that triggers that wouldn't affect most people, like light, sounds, changes in barometric pressure, or hormonal fluctuations, are enough to set off an attack. Second, thalamocortical dysrhythmia. The brain's sensory gating system loses its synchrony. This amplifies pain signals and produces the cognitive fog and attentional disruption that accompanies attacks. Third, there's central sensitization. Over time, pain pathways in brain areas like the insula, the anterior cingulate cortex, and the brainstem become primed. The nervous system effectively learns to treat many inputs as threatening, and this sustains and deepens the migraine pattern. And fourth, autonomic dysregulation. Sympathetic overdrive, the body's fight or flight response. An impaired parasympathetic tone raise attack vulnerability and show up as sleep disruption, fatigue, and a heightened reactivity to stress. The reason this framing matters is that if you target only downstream symptoms, if you try to suppress the pain, you're not addressing any of these underlying mechanisms. Neurogen does. Neurogen brain balancing is described in the peer-reviewed literature as a novel, passive, non-invasive neurobiomodulation modality for brain health. 4 features make it uniquely suited to migraine. First and most importantly, it's fully passive. There's no screens, there's no cognitive tasks, no sustained visual attention. Someone simply shows up and rests while the practitioner in the Neurogen system does its thing. This is critical for migraine sufferers who cannot tolerate visual stimulation, sensory load, or cognitive effort, especially during or near an attack. Second, it uses real-time EEG guidance. Live brainwave data drives every session, updating itself minute to minute. The Neurogen system continuously monitors cortical activity, identifies dysregulated patterns, and generates a protocol specific to what that brain is doing in that moment. Third, the signal that it delivers is extraordinarily gentle, with a peak output of around 2.5 picowatts, which is less than 1/10,000th of the power of a standard AA battery. It's far less than what your phone puts off in your pocket, and well below sensory threshold, making it imperceptible to most. This makes it well tolerated even by the most hypersensitive nervous systems. It's not the power, but the specificity that makes it so potent. And fourth, rather than suppressing symptoms, Neurogen operates at the network level, targeting the core mechanisms of cortical excitability, thalamocortical rhythm, and autonomic balance that sustains the migraine cycle. Now, more for providers, but I think migraine sufferers benefit from seeing this too because it addresses the why. Every core mechanism of migraine has a corresponding neurogen effect. Cortical excitability is addressed by normalizing aberrant oscillations and reducing membrane excitability. It raises the threshold for attack triggers. Thalamocortical dysrhythmia responds to neurogen's resynchronization of sensory gating rhythms, and this reduces the amplification of pain and sensory signals. As far as central sensitization, that deeply entrenched pain priming in the insula, the anterior cingulate, and the brainstem, this is disrupted by the intervention's influence on those sensitized networks, lowering what the literature calls the chronic pain gain. Neuroinflammation, which drives trigeminal vascular sensitization and contributes to chronicity of migraine, is thought to be attenuated through neurogen's influence on microglial activation and cytokine expression. Autonomic dysregulation is addressed through promoting vagal nerve regulation and parasympathetic dominance. In sleep disruption, one of the strongest predictors of migraine threshold improves as the autonomic nervous system rebalances and deeper sleep patterns are restored. This approach is not symptom management. It is directly targeting the mechanism of the dysregulation. Let me share the published evidence with you. This peer-reviewed research published in 2026 in the journal Health with me as a co-author. 20 adults with chronic migraine, with an average age of 40 and an average migraine history of 14 years. The vast majority, treatment experienced on multiple medications, completed 5 standardized 30-minute Neurogen sessions over the course of 4 weeks. The results were striking across every outcome measure. MIDAS disability scores, the gold standard for migraine disability, fell from 77.7, which is classified as severe disability, to 16.5. That is approximately a 79% reduction. The effect size on the HIT-6, the headache impact test, was 8.32, which is classified as an extremely large effect. And at voluntary 90-day follow-up, 89% of respondents reported sustained reductions in migraine frequency with no adverse events. Beyond the headline numbers, sleep also improved by 57%, work functioning by 42%, impact on relationships were reported to have improved by 48%, and mood by 47%. And 50% of the participants achieved their stated goal of reduced medication dependence. These are effect sizes that are markedly larger than what's reported in pharmacological or behavioral migraine trials. This is a genuinely remarkable response from a brief, passive, drug-free intervention. The quantitative data tells one story. The patient's own words tell another. One participant who had been waking up with severe migraines reported that since her last session, she had gone the longest stretch without a migraine in 3 years. Another described being able to resolve a morning migraine by the end of the day, something that had never happened for them before because migraines had always persisted into the next morning. A third reported going from 5 to 9 migraines of 4+ hours each week to having only one that lasted less than 2 hours, and being able to tolerate triggers like strong smells and weather changes that previously would have immediately sent her into an attack. At a follow-up, one participant wrote, "It's been amazing, sleeping like a baby, still no headaches or migraines, and headlights don't hurt in the mornings going to work." These are not outliers in this study. They represent a consistent pattern across the cohort, and they describe something qualitatively different from what people typically report after medications. Not just fewer migraines, but a fundamentally changed relationship with their nervous system. For anyone considering looking more into this, here's a practical guide. Strong candidates include anyone with chronic or episodic migraine at any frequency. The protocol was studied in chronic migraine sufferers, but the mechanisms apply across the spectrum. Treatment-experienced or medication individuals are particularly good candidates. Those who are sensitive to medication side effects or who are actively looking to reduce their medication burden. Those with comorbid anxiety, insomnia, or depression, all of which share overlapping mechanisms with migraine, and all of which showed improvement in our study. People who can't tolerate screen-based neurofeedback, and anyone seeking a drug-free approach, whether as a primary intervention or as an adjunct to existing care. The contraindications are narrow. Active seizure disorder requires pre-treatment consultation. Implanted electrical devices require individual review. Vascular restrictions at electrode sites warrant assessment. And those with longer migraine histories of 10 or more years might need additional sessions to achieve full response. Neurogen works well alongside preventative medications. Botox, acupuncture, CGRP inhibitors. It's not a replacement for those approaches. It's a powerful complement. You don't have to organize your life around migraine. And that might sound like a bold statement for those who have lived it, but it's what the evidence supports. In the recent study, 5 sessions of Neurogen brain balancing produced a reported 79% reduction in migraine disability, with benefits sustained at 3-month follow-up and 0 adverse events across the entire cohort. If you'd like to learn more about this option and our full range of integrative neurorehabilitation services, visit acuneuromodulation.com. Thank you for your time. There is hope beyond the pain cycle, and we're here to help you find it.